What we're talking about today is sound, specifically sound in horror films, and how exactly they affect the audience. And we'll be breaking it down into a few areas using some examples from a mere handful of horror films to explore what really creates horror. When we talk about affect, what we're really talking about is a reaction, and horror especially is accountable for inducing reactions more violent than any other genres, not just from visual information, but audible too. This is because humans are designed to be scared of what they can't see. Sound then single-handedly carries the horror aspect of the film. Since sound does not have to follow the laws of reality, more creative and terrifying techniques can be used and the immersive atmosphere won't be broken. Fear itself is sensed through the amygdala, a small section of the brain that is responsible for the neural connection to the adrenal glands, so that when danger is present, adrenaline can be pumped into the body in preparation for a fight or flight. This is why sometimes you feel butterflies in your stomach when you're nervous or scared, but it may not be the only reason your stomach feels uncomfortable. One of the more physical examples of sound is commonly known as infrasound vibrations. These are sounds that resonate below 20 Hz, which is too low for the ear to pick up. However, instead, we can feel this through our bodies. This is the same principle used to break a glass with sound. This is associated to fear because throughout the prehistoric age, large animals created a lower resonating sound, and small animals created a higher resonating sound. These same large animals were predominantly predators, and the smaller ones prey. Because sound moves in waves, they resonate through our bodies, and have even been known to cause discomfort, disorientation, and stomach sickness if the decibel levels are high enough. From here we can move on to non-linear sounds. In short, these are sounds that aren't consistent. What I mean by that is, imagine an average film's audio waves where they probably look something like this. Fairly consistent, everything stays around about the same level, but non-linear sounds are sometimes referred to as sawtooth waves, with silences, creepy music that gets louder, and maybe even jump scares. This effect is commonly referred to as cognitive dissonance. When two opposite feelings combine, it creates a discomfort and your mind challenges the scenario presented. In contrast to low sounds signaling a threat, high sounds can be perceived as comforting, like a baby's laughter. But when the two are combined, fear becomes present. These uncomfortable sounds are extremely present in horror, and the use of them alone could be enough to create discomfort to most people. Visually, creating discomfort is pretty easy, like Saw and other torture porn films do this frequently. But you can avoid the discomfort by simply looking away, whereas with sound you can't. Your instincts may tempt you to turn the volume down. But what about when these moments are unexpected? More recently, this technique was also used in The Babadook. This time, you don't have the visual image of the threat. We haven't even seen it at this point, and all we have is the audio, and arguably, this is even more terrifying. Jump scares are a difficult subject to cover. Perhaps it falls down to personal preference, but to me it all just seems like a cheap trick, which does provoke a reaction based on survival instincts, paralleling every other technique. But this doesn't create fear, it's just the byproduct of it. At least, not when done incorrectly. There are many examples of jump scares done right, and they all have the same thing in common: tension.
Boom!
Notice how there is tension building with the score and the atmosphere, and then smash cut to this. Something that isn't really frightening, but before we knew what it was, confusion and therefore discomfort created fear. So one of the final uses of sound I wanted to talk about is silence. Technically not sound, but by far one of the greatest tools used for creating tension. This once again derives from prehistoric psychology. If a human was being hunted by a predator, they would endeavour to be silent to avoid detection. We have since come to associate uncomfortable silences with nearby danger, and I personally believe this to be a far superior method for building tension. There is this one sequence that is genuinely terrifying. This purposely exploits our fear of lurking predators, while not relying on music or loud noise to prompt a reaction. Let me give you another example. This is not to say all methods of building tension with sound are inferior to silence, it's just an alternative.